So guys, we want to write is we've done something like this. Whenever we click on the button, we want this to increase the value here. At the moment, the value is 0. When we click this, it should reduce the value. So let's come. So this is our HTML. This is where where we have 0 here. If I should remove this, you see there's nothing inside of there. So we have 0 here. Then this is the plus, this is the buttons, these are the buttons in a div container. Then I have my CSS linked here, and this is the CSS files for that. So I believe you can do this. So what we are really concerned about is the JavaScript. So we've linked our JavaScript right here. So what we're going to be doing is to manipulate the DOM, to work on the DOM. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get this guy here. So I'm going to come to, let me call it, so let counter, I'm going to call it counter, create a variable called counter equal to document dot query selector. So I'm going to select that ID. So let's look for the ID. What's the ID's name? Counter value. So let's copy this so we don't forget or we don't do something wrong. So it's an ID. To select an ID, you have your hash sign there. So we've selected that ID. The next thing we want to select is the button up and button down. So I'm going to call this button plus so I'll create a variable, let btn plus equal to, so the same thing, this is not button plus, rather button up. That's the name that we have there. So let's do the same thing for the last one, which is the button down. I'm going to call it btn minus, and I'll say equal to document the query selector btn down. So the next thing I want to do is to create a variable called count that is going to store the value. Right now the variable is 0. So this variable will store the value whenever we increase, it should store. So we're doing this so that we can be able to update what the state of the value is. So at this point, it is at 0. When we click, this should add 1 to it. When we click plus, or when we click minus, it should remove 1 from it. So we come to, so let's write a function for that, an event listener for the button plus. Add event listener, and then I'm going to say click. Then what do I want to happen when I click? I should increase this count. The count should be plus plus, so increase it by 1, and then perform something with this counter dot inner HTML. I'm going to set it equal to count. So what this means is whenever I click on the button, which is this btn plus, I want to increase the value of this. So whatever the value is, I want to increase it by 1. Then at this point, I'm writing whatever the value is. After increasing it, I'm putting it inside of the count and storing it in a variable or in a value in the inner.html. I'm accessing that function in JavaScript. So let's save and see. So we save. When we click on that, you see that the number is increasing. So let's do for the minus. So whenever we click on it, it should reduce. So I can say btn minus dot add event listener. So the same thing. And what we want to add is click. When we click on it, we should also do the count, but this time around the count is reduced. So we are reducing the count. We are removing 1 from it. then counter dot inner HTML equal to count. So let's save this now and see. So when we can increase, we can also decrease. We can increase, we can also decrease. So that's for this tutorial. What we did was to be able to create that counter, we had to select the elements or the IDs from the HTML, and then we created a variable called count. The name of the variable doesn't really matter, it can be anything. And then we perform some functions to it. So there is one other thing we can do. We can make it more dynamic by having a function, let's say update. Let's update display equal to so equal to an arrow function. So what we want to do here is counter dot inner HTML, and we want to put count inside of here. So in this case, what this will help us do is to help us reduce. So we've created the function and we can call that function inside of here. Update display. So see, take this out as well. Let's see, update display. So I think this should work. So yeah, it did work. So your task, what you're going to do is to create this function, but I need you to add more styling to make sure that this is beautiful more than what you're seeing here. So I'm not focusing on the styling at this level, but for you, I want you to focus on the styling. The styling should be beautiful, and then add the functionalities as well. So I'm going to see you in the live section, and this video is particularly dedicated to Mr. Victor. And peace out. Happy coding.